And I was just focusing on my breath and the moment and trying not to sort of go ahead of myself. But him knocking on the door and coming into my friend's kitchen was very, very scary, and also a bit like, this is what I've been waiting for years, and finally it's happening. So some relief there. And so there he is, and I mean, this sounds ridiculous, but he doesn't look like a terrorist. Now, what is a terrorist? It's a label anyway that we give people. Freedom fighter, come back.
Yep.
But there's something about just seeing somebody who you've seen on the TV before or on newspapers, but seeing him in real life on a sort of 3 dimensions, and I could see immediately the way he spoke and the way he communicated with me, that he was a sensitive person. And so we started talking, and I shared with him, I felt at ease with him, so I could share who I was, what had been going on for me, and he shared what had been happening for him since his release and what he was hoping to do now. And he left the IRA as he left prison. He was very clear about that. So he was, at the beginning, focusing on the sort of political reasons. And I remember thinking, I can see he's like sensitive, but he is justifying killing my father and seeing it as a good strategy, a bit like a sort of general would or something.
Yeah.
But for me, this is my dad. This is my life. This has affected my children. This has been huge. I can't. I can hear what he was saying. I can understand it, but I wouldn't want to hear it again. So I remember thinking, this is probably just going to happen once, and that's fine. I'm getting what I want out of it because I can see I can see his humanity. And then that's when it changed, and he stopped talking, and he looked at me, and this is where later on he would say that he was actually disarmed by the fact that I gave him empathy, and if I'd been much more kind of arguing with him and giving him facts from history and and being angry and being right and making him wrong, that he could have stayed in his position of justification. But he couldn't, because I was very open, and I was there ready to listen and connect with him, and I was interested what was there beneath the surface. Who was he really? And so then he changed at that point, and he said, I don't know anymore who I am or what to say. I want to hear your anger and your pain, and what can I do to help you? And that's when the journey changed. It was no longer just about my need. He had a need to meet me as well. So another journey started.
Where are you today now with you call him Patrick McGee? Where are you with Pat?
I now call him my friend, and it is an unusual friendship, definitely. But we've worked so many places around the world, and we've been to places where we're the only people I only know him, so we've been supporting each other. We've experienced so much over the last, it's nearly 14 years. We have just experienced so much, and some of it's really difficult, and some of it's wonderful, some of it's miraculous, some of it's really hard, but we've shared it together, and so that means something else, to me, and he trusts me, and I trust him. Whenever we speak, we don't know what the other one's going to say. I don't know what I'm going to say, so there's that sort of trust there that we can sort of rely on each other.
Where have you been? But where have you both been around the world? Because I know that your focus is on peace.
Yes,
peace. And well, I'm going to say conflict resolution, but the focus is on peace. It is about conflict resolution, but it's about peace. Is that fair to say?
Well, conflict resolution, because for me, peace isn't just something that you kind of sit quietly and meditate and have white doves. It's actually about how do you deal with conflict, so it's not violent. What do you do? And that is about listening to the people, the ex-combatants or the combatants, and the people who had their loved ones killed, and it's about listening to everyone.
So whereabouts in the world have you been together?
Rwanda, Palestine, Israel, Lebanon twice, Well, I've been to America, but he couldn't get there.
Okay. And you'll put on an event and a talk, and people will come?
We've just done it so many different ways.
Okay.
Sometimes we're invited to someone else's conference or workshop.
Right.
I've also, the Palestine and Israel, I organised it, and over the years built up relationships with people there, amazing people, and so I worked with them to get venues and different groups and travel around. As I have a lot of people now that I know who are doing this kind of work.
Yes.
So interested, and I don't know, you remember I ended the TED talk by saying now that humanity heals together, and what I feel is that it's not about I'm just going to be with my conflict, it's actually about sharing and helping each other and supporting and empowering. Not that we'd have the answers for any other conflict or them for us, but it's about creating spaces for each other to have these conversations. And that's really important to care about everyone on the planet.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Joe and I tell the views, Joe and I have spoken outside of this talk, and one thing she hasn't mentioned is she actually is the direct cousin of Princess Diana. That's true, isn't it? First cousin. And
same grandmother.
Same grandmother. Okay. And she came to your father's funeral, didn't she, in 84? And you went to hers.
Yes.
And you were saying that if she had been alive, because she was, let's face it, the most iconic woman of the 20th century, wherever her focus went, there was a lot of media attention. And I hadn't heard of you. I randomly saw you at a TED talk, and I think the work that you are doing is absolutely fabulous.
Thank you.
But only from the perspective of that the world does need it, but does it? But if we have a real ego agenda of we really need it in the world, then we're actually not in a sense of peace now for that. But the way that I see you in the world is that you are engaging in it and making that difference, but doing it with love. In fact, what I was going to say was, and I tell my clients this a lot of the time, it's that it's about getting out of your head and into your heart. And I could see when you and Pat met for the first time, you dropped into your heart so much more, and that was the disarming with empathy, because that's where love is in the heart. It's not in the head. And that compassion that you had for him, he was obviously ready to heal at the same time, or at least open to healing. The very fact that he said, right, I'm not in the IRA anymore, and I'm interested in what intention he had when he met you. So has he ever said he had an intention, or
Yes, his intention was to try to help me understand, because he felt that they'd been demonized so much that I wouldn't have had kind of a fair picture
of the IRA and his upbringing.
Yeah.
And that anybody else of viewers who can go on Google Joe and Pat's interview on Conscious TV.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. It's about 45 minutes long. That's a long one. And I did hear quite a bit when Pat speaks, and he was saying they were literally lynched off the streets, and and they wouldn't have done anything, and so there was no jury, and were they put on a ship or something like in the middle of the Irish Sea? Is that right?
Was he?
I might edit that out. I might go on reference that, but they were held somewhere at least, or
yeah, they were in internment.
I think it was in a ship off might be a mile or two.
Belfast.
I think so, and I think he spent something like 2 years there. That's what I remember.
Yeah, it was 2 years in internment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there were reasons why he joined the IRA, definitely, which are understandable.